I wanted to make a video talking about this RFK Jr. stuff, so here I am. And specifically the initiative to have an autism registry and to gather up mass amounts of autistic people's data for the NIH to do a study where he specifically wants them to look for environmental toxins that are activating or triggering a larger number of cases of autism. And like I'm right now I'm kind of reeling. I watched Taylor Heaton's video, the 5-minute one and the 90-minute one that was a stream, and she's amazing. She's just like such a treasure to the community. Her research is good. Her citations are good. Her honesty is good. I relate to her a lot. She was diagnosed when she's 31. Now she's 36. I was diagnosed when I was 34. Now I'm 36. We both have autistic children, or I have one autistic child in my case. I have one child in my case. RFK only has a partial understanding of genetic research. He thinks, yeah, you can have genetic vulnerability, but that's not your destiny. Of course, that's how genes work. However, just talking about phenotypes and stuff like that, like, my parents are basically both autistic. Like, I don't know another way to say that. Like, there's no point to dancing around it. Like, my mom's diagnosed with ADHD in adulthood, which back when she was in like 2004-ish, like, that was not that common. It was not easy to even find someone who would evaluate you as an adult back then. And they're reading, my mom's reading Unmasking Autism. I want to read Neurotribes. I've never read it. I've heard about it, but I need to learn more about the history of autistic people. It's kind of like my journey as a trans person too. Like, learning about the history of trans people is very fulfilling. I recommend it if you're trans, or if you're not. It's interesting, but I always needed to take it in small doses because there's a lot of trauma in it. Like, there's a lot of really sad outcomes where people were institutionalized or killed. Like, bad things happened. Also, for someone like me, high masking autistic person, I suffered a lot my whole life. Like, I hear statistics, and I have other health conditions. Like, I have fibromyalgia, probably related to autism and PTSD, which is more common to get because of autism. And I have never quite related to like so many of the statistics associated with that medical condition, because it's like, if you have like herpes virus or something, like, you're going to get certain symptoms, certain frequency of outbreaks. It's not going to be the same. Everyone's story is not going to be the same. Some people are going to get it all the time. Some people get it once and never again. And with autism, I mean, I really suffered. Like, I heard her, she was quoting a statistic about how 35% of autistic children by age 8, autistic children without intellectual disabilities, have been suicidal before. I was suicidal. I remember clearly being suicidal at age 7. I remember exactly what it felt like and looked like to lay in my bed in my childhood room and look out the window and look up at the sky and just wish I could go to sleep and never wake up. And that was my life. And I mean, I would have teachers tell my mom, like, your kid needs to go to therapy, just a screening for they seem like they're not okay. And I would get taken to a screening, and then I wouldn't have more services after that. I was also in the gifted program. I would be IQ tested every couple of years, like, where the guy comes in and you literally have to do like rearranging the blocks on the table and like putting the red block in the right spot, like all the old school stuff. And I was in honors classes. I got good grades, but I didn't try. I was burnt out all the time. I was also undiagnosed with narcolepsy until age 35. I would fall asleep in the middle of school all the time. It was like a known thing. During our AP U.S. history exam, my teacher was like, okay, here's what you do if Sean falls asleep on the table in the middle of the exam, because they had to be careful because people can't talk. They can't, like, anyone could be disqualified for even the presumption of cheating on the exam. So there was like a plan in place for if I were to fall asleep in the middle, and I was still not diagnosed. Like, my mom being overwhelmed herself. I'm not saying this excuses neglect or any abuse or anything, but she was overwhelmed. She didn't, if she wanted to get help with that, maybe she could have, but the way it worked out, I didn't get taken to the doctor when I had medical issues. Like, one time I got giardiasis, and I almost died from it, which is ridiculous. I lost so much weight in like a week. I feel like I lost like 30 pounds, just constantly like vomiting and shitting. Like, it was awful. And I didn't go to the doctor for it. My mom didn't even take me to the doctor until after I suffered for that whole week. And then she finally took me because she realized the school was nagging her, like, you're going to need to have a doctor's note for your kid being sick this long. And like, that was my life. Like, she couldn't handle her really intense work environment for her, and she didn't have the kind of upbringing and tools to kind of know when to cut it off, to know, like, okay, this is not working for me, I have to reevaluate everything. And then on top of that, she was mostly raising us on her own income. My dad was not paying child support. He would like find ways to disconnect it so that it wouldn't get withdrawn from his pay and go from New Jersey to Pennsylvania to us. And because he was like bitter toward my mom or something, he like, so fucking annoying, by the way. I've told him that I'm very honest because of being autistic, or it probably comes from my autism. I'm not scared to say something to my parents, and like, there are a lot of reasons. I know my story. I know the reasons. It doesn't mean I forgive anything in particular that was bad, but this is just, we can't say that autistic people aren't protected under HIPAA. We can't say autistic people have different rights to privacy than everyone else. It sounds to me like what RFK is, the story he's trying to tell is, no, this is an epidemic. It's like COVID, but even worse, and we need to do it. We need to take away the agency from people and suspend those rights, because it's so important that we find this environmental toxin. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot different about my pregnancy and my mom's pregnancy. My mom had an autistic kid, probably two. My sister, I'm not going to get into that, because that's my siblings' life. And I had an autistic kid, but I didn't smoke while I was pregnant. I was stressed out beyond belief. But that's me every day, bro. Like, I'm always stressed out beyond belief. I've been extremely suicidal many times in my life. I've had attempts, I've had planning, for years now I haven't had any attempts, and haven't even had like much in the way of planning, like planning out steps. And I go to therapy twice a week for my individual, and also family therapy and other things. And my son also has his services, so we do a lot. I take it seriously. Like, I take my health and my ability to stay alive very seriously. I understand that basically people in the past would be told, like, you're overreacting, you're being hysterical, this is not life or death, you should be able to manage this stuff that you can't manage. And they just weren't given a choice, or like their families had to pick up the slack. Like, they might have had shutdowns and meltdowns. Maybe sometimes they were institutionalized and sometimes incarcerated, especially people of color who are autistic, which is still happening today. But yeah, I'm just really disappointed by this turn of events, and I mentioned it in a short, but I did file a complaint with the Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights. I did file a complaint with the District of Columbia ACLU. I said, please petition a judge to block the implementation of this registry idea. I spoke to my son's, the clinician that runs my son's social group program at Center for Autism, and she was saying they're having to console children coming in freaked out because they're hearing these news stories, like the headlines of them, and they don't understand, like, why is this so negative? And they're saying autistic a lot, and is something wrong? Like, am I going to be hurt? Is something going to happen to me? And people talking about, like, getting fired up about rights and stuff like that, and then them hearing that, but maybe not having, like, the interest or being at a certain age level to even understand things like government policies. Like, they don't know with the government. They don't have the life experience yet to understand, like, how much they trust their government and what their government is allowed to do and what rights they have. So they're being taught about their rights and being comforted and consoled, but they shouldn't have to be. And it's just like trans kids. Like, why? And being autistic and trans myself, I'm so tired of it. Like, I'm so tired of living in a world or in a country. Not that there's other better countries out there. I don't really know if there is, but I'm tired. Like, I work with a great group of people, and I have accommodations that make it possible for me to work. And, like, right now, I can record this video, ostensibly on my lunch break. I often don't eat lunch because it's hard for me to take care of myself, but I can record this video and post it, and if I want to work until 8 p.m. from home at my computer, I can do that. And I'm fully supported in doing that and doing what works for me, because they know that the quality of my work is really good, and they want to have my help, and they want to have my particular skills and special, like, insights and way of thinking about things and solving problems. And it's like, this breaks my heart. Like, I'm so disappointed. I'm often disappointed by our country. I'm often disappointed by our government. I'm often disappointed by our politicians. I have been my whole life. But this is just so unnecessary, and it's 900 grants pulled. And now we're doing crazy pants research as Taylor Heaton was saying, if we do find information about environmental toxins and we do start to get more strict, like the EU, that's good. That's good for everybody. It's good for autistic people. But don't, like, the way he's co-opting the narrative, it's like, you can't speak for us like this. You shouldn't be allowed to. Like, I'm sorry, like, you're not autistic. Stop talking about us like we don't have any say. So that's how I feel about all this. Just really upset and trying to process it. And I'm really lucky. I am very fortunate. I consider myself to be not wealthy in the sense that I can, like, get a house, but wealthy in the sense that I have great health insurance and I have access to therapeutics. Like, I have access to therapy, access to medications that help me. I have so much support, and I'm venture to presume that most autistic people don't. Many autistic people still are not diagnosed. There are tons of old autistic people, by the way. I'm, like, thinking of the ones I know in my head. And RFK saying autistic people, many of them are not going to date. They're not going to pay taxes. It's like, I pay taxes. I dated so much that I'm on my second marriage, okay? Like, that's just not true. And so we're having someone who doesn't understand autistic people just taking the lead on this, and that's just so uncool. So I'm going to get back to work, but it's really hard for me to sit and focus on my work when I have these, what feels like big social threat, triggering my fight, flight, freeze, fawn reactions. And there's only so much that I can do. My mom is a lawyer, so I talked to her about it, and she was reassuring me and saying there's a lot of people working on this right now, a lot of people taking it very seriously. So I'm going to try to trust in that. And I made my complaint, and hopefully some other people made some complaints, Talk to your local ACLU, and when I went to Pennsylvania ACLU, they said, no, you that's out of the jurisdiction because HHS is based in DC, so you have to do DC. That's why I did DC. So, I don't know if they're going to get back to me. I don't care what case. It doesn't have to be my case. Because I'm saying I don't want I'm feeling threatened. I'm not saying my data was accessed already without my consent that I know of. No, it's hard to say. It's hard for anyone to say that. Now, people who are being treated by Office of Veterans Affairs, who are being treated under the IHS, presumably some Medicaid and early intervention patients are going to have their data just used for this without their knowledge and consent, and like, or it'll be like a blanket consent that you form in order to get access to early intervention, which is really problematic. Like, it shouldn't be like that. You should be able to consent to each thing your private medical data is being used for. Yeah, I'm just, I guess what I'll leave you with is this. I would feel differently, a little differently, about the amassing data thing if we all had free universal health care. That to me would be a trade-off that almost sounds like, oh, the government's really administering healthcare. We're really having healthcare for everyone in a fair, egalitarian, free way where we just pay higher taxes and we get healthcare. Okay, fine. But the way it is now, politicized, and I have to pay out my ass for the healthcare privately. Come on. Like, just no. You don't get to have it both ways. I'm so ashamed of our country. It sucks. We have so many shitty people. I know it's not like a nice thing to say, but I really believe it in my heart. Like, I think he's a bad person. I'm sure he has good sides to him too. Taylor was able to be much more empathetic. You know, I'm not going to make fun of someone for the way that they speak. I'm not going to make fun of someone for their health conditions. That's something that I've seen happen in some of my political circles. People making jokes about brain worms. Like, that's not cool. Don't do that. But, like, do I sometimes make judgments against people and think that they're a bad person? Yeah, I do. Is that someone that I would leave my son alone in a room with? No, I wouldn't. Would I be alone in a room with him? No, I wouldn't. Would I even want to be in a room with him with other people in it? No, I wouldn't. I would feel fear. I would feel heart palpitations and trembling and near panic and maybe a panic attack. Like, that's how I would feel if I had to be in a room with RFK Jr. And I'm not the only one. And this is just so unfair. And Marco Rubio, I can't get a passport now that says they or them. I can only get a male passport. Fuck that. Come on. And, like, just let people adjust their gender marker to what's right for them as they need to within their lives, even if they need to change it a couple times. Let people have their privacy equally. Everyone gets the same privacy rights. You know, like, I just don't think that we don't have a perfect system. Far from it. But we do have rules in place that should be protecting us. It feels like they're not. And that's really, it's just so frustrating. And it really makes me want to withdraw and not engage in politics anymore. And I don't want to do that again. But the stress levels are just so much. So, anyway, I hope you have a good day. I'm sorry. You don't have to watch. I mean, if you watch this, oh my gosh. I guess you're sitting with me in the sort of shock and fear and worry and grief of it, maybe. But I hope you take care of yourself. I'm going to try to take care of myself and just let the experts do their jobs. You know, let the lawyers do their jobs. All right. Bye, guys.